Welcome to this next episode of Cosmic Rebel podcast. I'm super excited today to introduce my next guest, Sharron Jones. So I would love to invite you to be prepared to be inspired, uplifted, and transported to a realm where science, consciousness, and creativity converge. Sharron is a multidimensional thought leader, a creative visionary, and a guide whose work is nothing short of transformative. Sharron's journey is testament to the power of resilience, purpose, and the infinite possibilities that arise when we choose to embrace life's challenges as portals to deeper meaning. With over 2 decades of experience, Sharron has worn many hats, literally and figuratively, from her impactful time as art lecturer and exhibiting artist to a remarkable career in the film industry as a costume designer, writer, and producer. Sharron's creative genius knows no bounds, but her story does not stop there. After a profound spiritual awakening, Sharron began weaving together the worlds of human design, neuroscience, and creative alchemy in order to help others unlock their infinite potential and reclaim their authentic truth. Sharron's unique perspective transforms grief, trauma, and adversity into stepping stones for personal expansion. And she invites us to view these moments not as endings, but as invitations to explore the unseen, to reconnect with our essence and rewrite our stories with purpose and power. Through her art and teachings and visionary insights, Sharron is a guide for those of us ready to embrace the multidimensional truth of our existence. So get ready to dive into this extraordinary conversation with us both here. And we're going to really discuss so much stuff today, I have a feeling. So are you ready? Welcome, welcome, Sharron. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Peace. Thank you. I'm honored to be here, and I don't know what's gonna unfold in our conversation. It'll be interesting. When I hear that read back to me, I'm like, whoa. Is that me? Because I've been through so many things, and as you said, so many hats and labels, and it's like when you hear it read, it's like, is that me?
It's a
It's
lot.
interesting.
It is a lot. And, if I can sort of bring in, all of what you are becoming, with human design, this is something that I absolutely adore working with this modality to really assist us in accessing our unique magic, because human design is something that can really help us find a path that we can walk for a while we're discovering our divine truth, isn't it? So, what would you say was a pivotal moment that you found yourself studying human design and how it really helped you, Sharron?
Um, well, it's interesting. It found me. And I didn't actually find human design first. I actually found gene keys first. But because they're so interlinked, I had to dive into that. So I work with both systems. But basically, it was I guess coming up 7 years now, and that's significant in itself. And we'll go into probably touch on that. But 7 years ago, I made a piece of artwork. It was a key. Keys have been a theme in my life. They just keep showing up. I get given keys. I've got one here that when I was actually in, as part of my story, as I mentioned, I was in ministry, and I was someone who was a pioneering creative within the church, which is quite a radical thing to do. But someone gave me a key, and I still have this key. And so I've had different things given to me symbolically, even within the church. There was, because I worked on the edge, shall we say, of the of how can I say this? Um, I wasn't in mainstream. I wasn't in the mainstream church. I was more on the edge, and what it was pushing the boundaries of what Christianity was. Because I had gifts and abilities that surpassed what the church believed as and in and all of that. But people, because everybody was working so in flow and not standing, how can I say this? There was an evolution happening, and so because when you're working creatively, creativity is the essence of the divine. We are creator beings, so creativity is both the connection and the expression of the divine. So there is something that happens in the creative field that maybe not happens within the normal non-creative people, and I don't like saying that non-creative, because we're all creative, but there are some of us who are called specifically to be in very creative areas and professions, what have you. And I've been in that for a long time, and creative people do tend to be a bit more open-minded and pushing boundaries and seeking things and what have you, because there is that innate divine connection, which they might not be aware of, but it's there, it's nudging them, it's leading them. And I'm losing track now where I was going with that.
That's okay.
Oh yes, the key.
Yeah, talk about the key.
I made this key, and it was a very ornate key. I made it out of wire, and it was very intricate. It was like wrapped and beaded and lots of different elements, and it had a dragonfly on it, because as I was working, this dragonfly became part of it, and it was just like, I made it, and I was like, oh my god, this is so significant. It was like jumping out at me. But a lot of the time when I create something, and more so now, but it wasn't 7 years ago, I can normally get a read off what I make, and it'll give me the direct message. But for the first time, I didn't have that, and I made the key, and it was like, I know that this means something, and this is actually a literal key that's going to unlock and take me somewhere. But I wasn't getting the download of what that was, and so my whatever you choose to call it, my intuition, my guides, my whatever, said Google, and I'm just like, really? And so I put into the search engine, I put dragonfly's key. Okay, that's all. I just put that in, and what came up, which it blew my mind, was gene key 55. Okay, this is what came up, because Richard Rudd, who is the founder of Gene Keys, has a title or a description for each of the 64 gene keys. And so this gene key is known as the dragonfly's dream.
Oh, how interesting.
And so, but what was even more significant is the 55th gene key is the most significant key out of all the 64 keys. And this is for a few reasons, but I will tell you. One unique thing is that it is the only gene key which the gift and siddhi are the same. Okay. And what I mean by that, within different to human design is still in a duality polarity system. The initial transmission of the synthesis was a very black and white. It was just, this is the way it is. But then, as various students that were under Ra, who is the founder who brought it through, when they have been with him, there has been a co-creation and a evolution of it. Although some people, a lot of the main, I don't know what to call it, the founding of the human design are very fundamentalist and very pure and very much like the church. This is how it is. It doesn't change, blah, blah, blah. But Ra never said that. Ra said this was something that was going to evolve, and it certainly has. And certain practitioners and ones that I have trained into have really taken it somewhere. And in particular, I will mention this one, but, person, which is Karen Curry Parker, and I did a lot of my training under her, and she took it to another level, and her interpretation, maybe we call it that, of human design is quantum human design. And this is where she brings a more multidimensional approach and talks about quantum creativity and talks about there being a spectrum of the expression of that gate, you know, and that we're not held like in the original transmission, like certain gates would have negative connotations, and it was just said, this is it, and you are only going to have this negative expression of the gate. But that is not true. As we know, we are multidimensional and we have choice. Although Ra did say we have no choice, but the no choice is in a different area, and that could be discussed. That might be another conversation.
Oh, yeah.
But going back to that, the 55th, and that there is what's known as a spectrum within Gene Keys, and we have what's known as the shadow, which could be compared to 3D. We have the gift, which could be classed as 4D, when we're stepping out of that, and we have that awareness happening when we step into the fourth dimension, and that is our gift, and that's when we start awakening, activating, whatever language you choose. And then we have a much higher expression, which we could, Richard calls siddhi, which means divine. I think it means divine gift. I can't remember now. But it is the divine, or the ultimate expression of that energy. So with going back to Gene Key 55, which is what came up when I searched, is that the shadow, this is where it's interesting, the shadow of Gene Key 55 is victimhood or victimization. And then we have the gift of freedom and the siddhi of freedom. And so when we step into our gift of freedom, we actually have access to the whole. So there is this, it is a portal. All the gates and Gene Keys are portals, but this one specifically can be a rapid jump into our authenticity, evolution, whatever you choose to call it.
Yeah.
And so, but the other interesting thing about this gate and Gene Key is that it is the one, well, it's not the only one, but it is the main one which is under the most pressure. It is mutating. There is language within Gene Keys and human design called mutation. And so this is evolution happens through mutation. That is how something evolves. There is a mutation in the DNA. And so we have circuitry within the human design. There are three main circuitries. There is collective circuitry, tribal circuitry, and individual circuitry. Individual circuitry is where the mutation normally happens. So, and everyone is a mix of these different circuitries. Some you have certain more biases or whatever within in your chart, and that influences, how your energy works, what you're here to do, how you interact and influence others, blah blah blah. So the 55 is the one under the most pressure, and it is where the evolution, the mutation of the DNA, it is where we are going from. Richard, as I said, you have animal totems connected to every gene key. And so the dragonfly is connected to that energy because it is, in essence, the symbol, archetype of that evolution of consciousness. It is going from a water creature and totally changing into an air creature, and so it's a totally different.
Yeah.
It is a metamorphosis, and we could go into the whole of that, and it's absolutely amazing.
And that's where we
But
are.
yes,
Do you feel that that is kind of, because this, I really resonate with that stage of metamorphosis that I truly believe and feel deeply in my cellular level that we are humanity, humanity being light manifest in its translation authenticity. We are at this point of metamorphosis where we can choose. We can stay in the elemental of the water, or we can transform and go into a more higher dimensional reality plane of consciousness. Do you feel that is somehow why this has come into your field and what you're working with right now, that we get now to choose ultimately?
there's many layers to this, and the interesting thing when I was looking at this and I read it and I resonated with it, because I was where I was living and blah blah blah. I was having dragonflies show up all the time, and they had been, something in my field, and then it was fascinated when I read the whole thing about the this particular gene key, and then it was the case of we have this personal blueprint, and I'm going, I bet this is in my blueprint. And so when I ran my chart, there it was my core wound, and it was my vocation, and it was just like, wow, this explains everything. It was. And when the other things all you look at the whole of my both my Gene Key's profile and looking at my human design, it explained everything that I had been through and what I'm here to do. Everything just fell into place. Although I will say, and this is the caveat of that, is that, it is still part of the system and the control mechanism, okay? But it shows us what we have chosen to control us within this matrix. And so it gives you the clues and it just shows you. But then, once you know and you step into your authenticity, your evolution, whatever you choose to call that, then basically you can break all rules and boundaries because you have access to everything. So it's a good stepping stone. It is a blueprint, and it is it's a great tool to because it gives a lot of structure. It gives a lot of
like a foundation for our life, really.
Yeah. It's so many things on so many levels. It's so detailed. I mean, and people use both these systems in so many areas in terms of, just the normal self-development, but it's used within business. It's it's starting to be used more within healing paradigms, which is what Karen Carey Parker um, is doing with it, and has combined additional modalities with it. So she uses a lot of EFT, is one of the primary tools she uses with it. She has recently completed a PhD in round trauma and various things, and so she does bring some interest in insights. Although I haven't interacted much with her since Andrew became ill, because that became obviously he was my only focus. So I haven't seen what has been evolving in the last 3 years or what have you. But I do think one of the things that I am seeing, and when I look at it, and when I look at my own my creative expression, my healing journey, and the way I learn, because obviously I have been in academia, and when you train as a teacher lecturer, you look at learning styles and stuff like that, and yet when you start teaching, it all goes out the window. It's like ridiculous, because they don't allow for that to be facilitated, which is how I got into loads of arguments within the education system, and that's why I left, because I'm a new neurodivergent. I don't fit into the normal ways of learning and how I look at things, because I'm both dyslexic and ADHD, and I do think individuals which have those, I don't like diagnoses or whatever, but those particular ones and autism, I think is that this might be really controversial.
Go for it.
It is that individuals with the aspect, whatever you call it, have come into this incarnation at a different vibration.
Yeah, I really resonate with that too, because it's like any label. It can define you, or it can excel you, whatever word you want to, you can be weighed down by that. Or you can go, actually, yeah, I have superpowers, and I'm going to work my superpowers, into that level of superhero on all levels of your being, physically, emotionally, mentally, and soul. And I support that, being neurospicy myself in my way, is like, yeah, I'm going to run with these things that I'm having a lived experience with, because they can be really freeing, or they can they can trap you. And that's another thing about personal choice, isn't it? The whole free will thing is very unique to every individualized soul. And do we then choose to walk in the heaviness, or do we choose to go, well, actually, I know now that I'm here for a really big reason. Let's come out of this heavier, denser reality of duality and what have you, where everyone's in it for themselves and what they can get out of life, and being screwed over by all the societal stuff that we're dealing with? Or can we come out of that? And this is where we're going with, how we're helping, however we're helping to release people into their superpowers, helping them take off those shackles over here bit by bit, as is, right for them, so that they become more here and rise as superheroes to assist. It's like a filter system. That kind of thing. So I think if anybody identifies with anything, it's like, what are you going to do with that? You know, how can you make that work to the benefit of the highest good of all, you know? Um, so what would you sort of like to say about that?
I mean, where, why I interjected with that point was what I was going to say. My flow of thought at that moment, was from our blueprint, is the way we learn is actually the way we create, and it's the way we heal. Okay, so that there is this blueprint of how it is and how it's unique to each of us. And so that's why a bit of a bugbear that within the coaching or healing community or whatever it is, people go, "Oh, my program will heal you. You only need to do my program." Bullshit. You know, it could have worked for them, but it's not going to work for everyone because we're all uniquely designed.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so it's better for the individual to find them and connect to them, and then their healing and their expression will just unfold naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not going to have these overlays from other people's beliefs or journeys or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And
You know?
yeah, I mean, this is something that I'm sort of experiencing at this stage is the stage of observation where we can take ourselves out, back, up, whichever way you want to look at it, depending on where you're coming from. If you're coming from the archetypes of, serpent, hummingbird, jaguar, eagle, that kind of thing, you can go up and you can observe from a higher point. That's kind of what my path is. It's like taking myself out, observing, adjusting, recalibrating, whatever you want to call it, expanding, becoming more, and then flowing with wherever that needs to go. So I love the saying like water for chocolate, chocolate being something that is really central to my life.
Yeah.
As you know, with cacao and my passion for
Mm.
plant medicine. So, if we flow and we navigate, a new path that is an old path, or the path less trodden, so to speak, and it isn't about us stepping in and rescuing anyone, fixing anyone, this, that, and the other. That is so old way of feeling and being on this earth. It goes bigger than that. We're not here to heal anyone else at all. So I totally agree with that. And there is definitely no one fit for everyone. It is our journeys have changed and become something else, haven't they? And they're going to continue until we just go back into the source of light and all that is again. So I think that's part of the journey that a lot of people may forget as well, is that, whatever looks right now isn't going to look right tomorrow or the next week or the next month. You're going to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah. And previous, modalities or tools that worked for you before might not work for you now.
Yeah.
Because you've evolved, and certain tools and stuff might be actually classed as, and even I could really get into different controversial territory with this, is that they only can take you to 4D. And so that and which is not sovereign. You're still handing your power over to a tool, a modality, to a belief system, to a religion, you know. Um, and so you are not going to get any higher because you have to take everything back to go into sovereignty. Although we already had that conversation about sovereignty, there is that has to happen before you can go to that higher, whatever you choose to go. I don't like you know the sort
Okay.
of, when you've got higher and lower, and there is that essence of hierarchy and stuff, but for you to evolve to your more authentic, your truer version, um then you have to, only you can deal with it, only you can face it. You have to feel it, face it, and and transmute it. There is no other option. You
Yeah.
cannot, there is no one coming to save you.
No, we don't need saving.
There is no, this is where it can get controversial.
Yeah.
You know, there is no rapture. I don't even believe that there is ascension. And this is where I get controversial, because if you look from the quantum perspective, we never fell.
Yep. This is what I was sort of kind of alluding to earlier before we started, the recording today, is like that consciousness comes from forgetting everything you ever thought you knew, everything anyone else in a human form has told you, any books you've read, any programs you might go on that you think you need. Program. It's releasing all of the wires that we've had plugged into our heads one by one. When you're working in the quantum frequencies, that's what we're doing. We're removing all these wires and letting go of all that we've been carrying in these lived experiences that we've had. However, people believe, whether this is it. I don't believe that this experience is it. This is just the latest chapter in a long, massive book. You could talk about the Akasha here, the books of our lives, and the unforgetting, I believe, is the biggest act of rebellion that we can enter into in this lived experience, is forget everything so you can actually remember the truth that I feel may encapsulate conscious evolution, and the more we forget, the more we become. So, talking about the sovereignty and all that, the ascension and the rapture and all that, they're just words that we've heard, aren't they? And we may have bought into them at one point, and like you were saying, and then that just falls away as an untruth. That's a big thing for
Like,
people to think
it,
about.
it is profound when you just like, and you can't, it's the whole thing of what is that? I'm trying to think of his name. I don't know whether it's Planck or Bohr or whatever, one of the quantum physicists, and said, if you think you've got, quantum mechanics wrapped and you understand it, you just don't get it, because it's still our humanness cannot comprehend fully what that is,
It's
and I'm still
yeah,
like, this is,
that's
unbelievable.
yeah, it is unbelievable, and I think that may
Mm.
be why people don't get it. The simplicity, my entire world is about creating simplicity in its authenticity. Oh, that would be a good one.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
because we have become such a complicated species,
Mm.
governed by a mind that has been so indoctrinated. Can I
Related.
use
Yeah.
that? And
Yeah.
it's like when I'm working with people to help them connecting with their own truth and divinity, it's like I say, you get this book, this is a tiny book compared with our real book, you know, and every page is a limiting belief or a conditioned response. And you're, in the quantum work we do is we're tearing out a page at a time and burning it into transmuting it into the, back to consciousness and creator. And that simplifies the magnificence of our ability to come back to truth. Um, for me, that's where I'm at now, and it's like
Mm.
even that is just so big. The simplicity of it, the freedom of it. So how do we help more people? I don't even like calling them people
Mm.
because it's like it's doing them an injustice for who they truly are. And what we're looking at doing is how can we, as space holders, as luminous beings of light, how can we help people forget? I think we need to start there is the forgetting process. And just this is why we live in nature, because we're not constricted at all
Yeah.
when we're in our natural habitat. So we can fully express as divine beings of light when we're in creator consciousness, which is nature. Nature is our quantum field of reality. It's the only true thing on this planet is nature. So I don't know whether you'd like to sort of share some of your feelings on that, you know.
I was just thinking that the way that you're emphasizing simplicity, I wonder whether you have the gate 23, gene key 23, which is the shadow of complexity and the gift of simplicity. And I just wonder if that's in your profile, and that's why it's part of your language. It's just interesting how some things are there or not.
Yeah.
You know?
What would you, because a lot of people won't really know what the gene keys, how can the gene keys become, shall I use the word anchoring our mind, if you will, give it another tool to, like human design is a tool, all these modalities are tools that assist us in our,
Tools.
yeah. How would you say, coming back to what the basis of gene keys could help people?
With in When you look at the two systems, when you look at human design and you look at gene keys I look at as a map of our woundology.
Okay.
Um, and so it shows us our wounds. And what I mean by that, gene keys is although it's very similar to to human design in terms of it's based on the I Ching, the 64 hexagrams, and it's the gates have become the gene keys in that essence. So we still have the constructs of Eastern and Western astrology, the Chinese I Ching, the Kabbalah, the Hindu chakra system, quantum physics, and genetics. All of that is still in the mix. But how I would look at the two systems is that human design is a logical system, and it's the more masculine, and it shows you how you function. It is your energetics, it's your circuitry, it's how you operate, and it is how you interact with others, from both how you influence them, how they influence you, and it's how you interact with the quantum fields and your higher connections, or you choose. But gene keys shows you it's an evolution path, and it shows you your wounds that you need to look at and integrate and stuff. So it shows you how people are attracted to you. It shows you your sexual wound. It shows you what triggers you, what your defense mechanism is. It shows you your core wound and what you're here to clear sort of ancestrally for your line, or whatever you choose to call it, your lineage, your fractal. There are what we call wounds, which are to do with the three. There are, when our soul incarnates in, it takes 3 7-year cycles to fully integrate. But this does not happen because there is trauma that happens even within the womb and within these areas. So the first 7 years of our life are the physical, is when the physical is laid down. So that is connected in gene keys to the SQ. And that is a major guiding thing, because your SQ is the connection to how you connect to your inner child, and it is how you awaken your heart. And so it shows you what your inner child needs to be connected to and evolve, blah, blah, blah. So then the next one then, from age 8 to 15, is when our emotional body was formed. Okay. And that is our EQ, our emotional intelligence. And that is our defense mechanism of how we respond or react in a certain given conflict or contrast, shall we say. And you have that. And then you have the last part of your soul's incarnation from 16 to 21, which is your mental body. And so there is a mental wound, and your mental wound is actually your trigger point. And that forms what's known as the Eden loop with your EQ. Your IQ and EQ is what's known as the Eden loop. And so the two shadows of both those keep you looping, and that's what you can't get out of until you have the awareness. And all this happens within relationships. It's all relational, and even that has changed, and that might be, I don't know whether we'll get onto that, in terms of it's not about relation now, it's about connection. And the world as we knew it was built on relation, not connection. Okay, connection is to do with the present moment, about being in presence, whereas relation is always about what happened in the past, and this person is going to show up as we last met them. So that is relational. Whereas if we show up in the moment, present, neutral, that person can show up totally different to what they did previously. And so there's a whole interesting dynamic going on there. But I'm sidetracking.
It's a great overview for people that may be new to both these concepts as tools, though, and really maybe they'll really relate and go, oh my God, I need to know more about my keys, in order to initiate the evolutionary process for them.
Yeah. And again, within in human design, this is where I said seven is an influential time scale. So every 7 years. Now, in human design, from the time that you first see your human design and you start following what's known as your strategy and authority, which is to do with what energy type you are and what your decision-making authority within that. When you start following that, you are entering into a 7-year deconditioning alchemy. And it takes 7 years to decondition of what you've been programmed by society, your family, everything, the matrix. It takes 7 years to totally get out of that. There are arguments that can be fast tracked, but I think that because we are still in physicality, you can't. I think it's still
time. Yeah.
I think it still takes time. There are miraculous things. There are always exceptions to the rule in miraculous, but I do think deconditioning does take time.
Yeah.
So there is 7 years from when you become aware of your design, and they say when you follow it, in that 7 years you would have deconditioned. Each year can be looked at as an alchemical phase. There's a whole thing that can be broken down. It's absolutely amazing. But where I was going to go with this is that some people come to human design gene keys and have already awakened to some level, but we're always awakening and evolving. So there's layers and layers, although there are arguments in that, like people say there are no layers within awakening, you're either asleep or awake, so there's, but, there we go. That's another thing. But so then it can still help you recognize these subconscious, unconscious loops that are going on. It gives you some sort of pointer now, and it'll go, oh wow, yeah, this is it. This is why I'm looping here and I can't get my breakthrough, Like you do all these modalities that are out there, but you're almost like throwing spaghetti against the wall because you're not specifically pinpointing the pain point, the wound. Whereas this will give you a direct thing to that age of when it happened or what have you. Do you know what I mean? So it's quite fascinating in
Yeah.
that field. And then with gene keys, it's broken down into you have the activation sequence, which is just looking at your the four codes of your incarnation cross, which is your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and your purpose. So your life's work, that's obvious. Evolution is what grounds you, but it's also the lesson that you're always learning all the time. Your radiance is what keeps you healthy, and it's part of your legacy of what you leave behind. And then your purpose is your being, your beingness. Do you know what I mean? And what you're here to be, as opposed to what you're here to do in the other aspect.
Yeah.
And then the next layer then is what's called the Venus sequence, which is the relationships and and that's those woundings which I've described are part of the Venus path sequence. And so you have your unconscious moon, which is your attraction field and your sexual wound. Then you have your IQ, EQ, SQ, and then that then goes to your core wound. And then you have this other one then, which is your culture and your pearl, and those are part of what we call the pearl sequence or your prosperity codes, and how you're here as part of your mission. Because some of us are networkers, some of us are designed just work, to work on the one-to-one. Some of us are actually here to be sort of empire affecting people. We're all here at different levels of our field, and this tells you all of so it's really really
Yeah. So really you can use these modalities as maps of creation or co-creation with the universe to really impact, and leave that legacy of your true mission of why we decided to come into embodiment, particularly, not just at this time, this moment, which is it's never happened before, like we were just talking about, never in our human history of lifetime after lifetime have we had this opportunity now to almost fast track without fast tracking. Because if we fast
yeah,
track and quantum leap too far, we're going to get snapped back. So there's elements, what I was hearing, and what came through when I was listening to you speaking is, there's quantum leaps and there's quantum creeps, and both are really, really important. We take the little quantum creeps that we really can ground in and integrate into all layers of our existence. And then I'm sure we will go, I've certainly myself experienced quantum leaps of my evolutionary process. Yet, there's the ability to go too far too quick, like you were saying, and it
yeah,
not sticking. Like
yeah.
that's
Now this is where I'm going to jump in and maybe a bit be controversial as well. Okay, again, and I don't know the whole thing of, I don't know your whole remit with plant medicine. Okay, um because I believe plant medicine is maybe accessing information you haven't earned. Okay, so it's giving you a direct leap into fifth, sixth, seventh dimension, and you have not earned it. So your consciousness, as it stands, and awareness cannot process it, cannot integrate it. And so, in fact, you could have actually harmed yourself in making that jump that you were not ready for, although you thought you were. These are just controversial views that
yeah, and I've seen that in many people. I've seen that, and it comes from a neediness and the core wounds make certain aspects of us seek to go into those realms of losing control and going too far too soon. It's certainly not been my experience working the way that I do with plant medicine, which is I don't I'm not one of these. I don't hold massive groups or anything like that. It's really intimate. And I've worked with plant medicine for over 15 years, very intimately, but on my own, as well as being, held by medicine carriers. However, I
Yeah.
see at the time what you're referring to. And that's another reason why nothing sticks or people can go into psychosis. And it's something that I feel really strongly about is when people come to me asking where would I recommend they go and do, say, go and meet ayahuasca, for example. I want to know the reason why. And I say that all the time. Why do you want to do that? What are you not facing in order to,
Thing.
yeah?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that
exactly.
that's what you were saying. What are you running away from?
Away from.
Yeah,
Because our pain points, our greatest fears, our heartbreaks are our shortcuts to evolution. When we face them and feel them, they are the ones that are going to quantum leap us, not the plant medicine or what have you.
yeah.
It's
There
actually
is,
doing the dirty work, the inner work, the shadow work, whatever you choose to call it.
yeah, yeah, totally. Because there is no shortcut through that work.
No,
And that is something really, really important that we're not rushing the process either,
it
you know,
says. Yeah, yeah.
because there is
But
no,
that is part of our culture. Everything is a dopamine driven culture. We want it now. In
yeah,
fact, we want it yesterday.
yeah, yeah.
Do you know
And
what I mean?
there's kind of a reason why, because
It's crazy,
it is, it is, but
And I have even more sorry.
we chose to come into a slow body. We chose to embody the light, which ultimately slows us right the fuck down. And then we want to speed it up. Well, if we wanted it now, why did we embody? We
Yeah,
came,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
yeah, so there is no hurry. I always say, well, nature is in no hurry. She will
Mm.
set the pace. And if we ultimately, having this human experience, follow nature as our guide and know that nature brings us into contact with the divine, who we truly are. It's that cycle of in and out breath, that we're experiencing here on this planet. I feel that we've come down to experience the slowness and
Yeah, there are seasons, cycles, and rhythms, and we're totally disconnected from them all.
yeah. And we've got to go through those on the energetic frequency as well as on the physical. It's why we talk about all four layers of our existence in the human body. We can't omit any of them, but yet people do. They medicate the mind, you know, they poison the body, they poison the land, and they shut off from source. And now it's like, come on, why do that? And it's mostly unconsciously done as well. So there's a lot of unpacking to do in order to, what we were talking about earlier, come back into the simplicity of now, where all things become possible when we're present now, because there is only now. So why do we want it yesterday or it's like be here now. So how can we help people be here now in every moment?
I mean, there's so many different things, but it's our breath. Just when to the extreme of when you're having a panic attack or what have you, you have you're trying to catch your breath. Do you know what I mean? So it's always trying to have that awareness, come back to yourself, try to do that multiple times a day and not get lost in the chaos of
Mm.
life. I mean, obviously you don't experience that because you're out of it, but
I
the
do.
majority of the majority of people are in it, you know, and so
Yeah.
it is, you know, but life is messy. It is chaos, you know. Creativity is messy, you
Yeah.
know. And so you have to be one that holds both the uncertainty and the unknown in that, and letting it unfold, and that takes a huge amount of, I don't know, you know, is it the, you know, trust, faith, whatever you choose to
Yeah. Trust, definitely. That's
say.
something that's always
I
come
mean,
is the word trust massively. That's the repetitive word that I hear. Trust. Hold the belief, hold the moment. And I do experience it, everything, you know, I'm one of those that feels everything and then has to translate it into an a comprehensible um way of communicating, you know. And when we were talking earlier, it's like just explaining what you're feeling in any one moment can be very complex. And when you said about the breath, I feel is the most powerful thing to do, because I'd like to offer this as a question to everyone listening. How often do you observe your breath? And not only observe your breath, but how your body is feeling, which is something that I'm incredibly often hyper aware about. You know, is that I'll suddenly realize that I'm so tense I can't breathe. And then I will go into a process with my breath and visualize my breath going into every part of my fascia. But it can take a while for that to actually happen, for the release to begin to relax and uncomplicate the body again and free up what you've been holding. Because sometimes I don't even know, and I'm sure a lot of
yeah,
people resonate with that. You don't even know what you're feeling.
no,
And it is an invitation to come back into the present moment. So for those of us that carry a lot of trauma within our makeup, that is probably one of the most powerful things we can do to release the trauma.
yeah.
And
I
nobody
mean,
is,
part of, yeah. I was just going to say, part of one of the other modalities I use is heart math. I'm a licensed heart math coach.
yeah,
So we actually use biofeedback technology. So one of the things is this device, which is known as the inner balance, and this reads um, your HRV and coherence of your year. And so you have certain breathing practices within this modality. It's more of what we call heart focused breathing and resonant breathing. But when you do this, it then takes the body out of the sympathetic fight or flight and into this coherent feel, you know, and your body then goes from not producing adrenaline and cortisol to producing a hormone which is known as DHEA, and which that starts to calm the system and brings it back to homeostasis.
mm,
Um,
I
so
love
that's just, I mean, what I like about this particular, as opposed to doing, you know, the yoga breathing or a lot of the others, is that for me, it's got like a technology and a more scientific medical bias, you know. So I've got readable things here to show that I'm actually in that zone. Whereas
yes.
people can do breathing and think they're doing it, but they're not actually in it because their
Yeah,
body is so, they're so disconnected from their body, their system, everything, that they cannot even reach that. Whereas once you've got maybe a tool like this, you can then guide your body and seeing how your body is in real time
yeah,
of what it is, you know, because you know, the recent trauma that I have experienced has affected, well, I cannot, not be affected by what I've been through. And so it has affected my HRV and my coherence, so I have to work extra hard now to bring it back. I'm still in the integration healing recovery process of what I've been through in the last few years, and it was a lot.
Oh, it's a
you know,
lot.
for some people, one of the things I went through would have actually taken them down and out, but I had multiple things that, I lost my business. We lost our business. We were evicted from my home, from our home when my husband was in his first coma. Um, and then he died, and he was only 39. He had some horrific things that happened to him. This was started in lockdown, so we had the whole rigmarole of that. And so, I there were 3 emergency ICUs, and the third one he died in. And it was just absolutely horrific for a human to see, your loved one go through something which was, well, the scale of suffering, discrimination, neglect, negligence was unfounded. And although he probably wasn't aware fully what he went through, because of the illness, the drugs, that were given to him, he wasn't aware what was going on. So I had to advocate for him. I had to make choices, and put in very challenging, places. And I did this alone. I have no family. I'm estranged from my family. I've got no friends that live immediately around me. So I did this all alone. I had what we call I had a virtual network, but that's not quite the same as having a physical thing to do. So yeah, it was very interesting. So I'm still processing that, and it is, when you go through any devastating trauma, the damage it does on the cellular level to the body is more so than someone who's been in a car crash. And people do not realize that. And it takes time to heal.
Yeah.
As you said, nature is not in a rush.
Yeah. And this is the thing with our society, isn't it? That everything has to happen at 100 miles an hour. And it's taken away a lot of people's ability to heal because they're on that momentum that never stops. And, thank you I'd like to honor you for sharing the magnitude that you've been through. And I am sure millions can really resonate with that because of the last 5 years. And,
Awesome.
and maybe there's medicine in everything. We go through what we go through. I believe, even though it's a horrific thing to actually go through, where we're taken is for our expansion and our soul growth. But again, many people may really be triggered by that and go, I didn't ask, whatever the response is. But through everything that we are living through and have lived through, our soul knows the ultimate truth and will continue to carry us forward in whatever way is right at that present moment. And the awakening that we've gone through, in the last decade, because I don't know about you, but a lot of us knew there was something massive going to happen that would be the pivot that humanity needed. and nothing is it disconnected, whether whatever modality, whether it's astrology or human design or any of it, when you bring all that into play and you are able to take yourself out of the picture of the mind and come from a purely observatory place, you go, yeah, we fucked up. Humanity is really good at fucking up, but it's nothing to be ashamed about. It's nothing, there's no blame, there's none of that. It's just coming into a place of acceptance of going, okay, we've been offered this. Look at this beautiful dish we've been offered with all these beautiful these beautiful recipe, which could be the tools, the analogy of all the tools that we've got access to. And the quantum field is part of that. We've got all access to that now. So what are we going to do? Are we going to really go into this process of transformation, going back to the dragonfly, the metamorphosis of our species? Or are we going to continue repeating the same patterns and fuck it up again and again and again? Is there going to be both elements at play? I think there is. There's always going to be this, isn't there? But unprecedented times. And those of us that have really gone through, well, none of us is untouched by trauma. None of us, not a single living, breathing entity on this planet. Whatever damage some of them are doing, whether they're alien being walk-ins or plants or overlay technology, whatever it is, every single one is carrying some form of trauma. And this is something that I question is, so, okay, so now it comes down to the magic. We are birthing something that will hopefully assist those that have yet to come in not fucking up as humans again. I don't know the answer to that. It's something that I'm really feeling the potential of transmuting everything. But people do need to slow the heck down.
Yeah,
So
because actually in slowing down, we speed up. And I know that sounds a paradox, but it is.
it is.
And I think it's difficult for manifesting generators because we move extremely fast and and we went, we're designed to skip steps and we make these quantum leaps and stuff. But in that we still need to learn to reconnect, be connected to our bodies, be connected to nature, because we are nature. We are what the quantum is, that we are nature.
Yeah.
It is, we are the art, the artist, and the process. We are it all.
Yeah.
So the other thing, I don't know whether this is appropriate to bring in, and I'm still weighing it up for myself, because anytime that people predict date and all of that, it's so we've got, I don't know what was it? Was it 87 was the harmonic convergence or whatever it was, and you've had like key things that have happened. Connected to the Mayan calendar and different things. And then you have within the mythology and prophecy of human design is 2027. And that is very, very significant. And that lines up. The reason why it lines up and what that is to do with, we have within astrology you have the precession of the equinox and all of that, but within human design, as well as having personal incarnation crosses, there are actually overarching incarnation crosses of the whole of what humanity is going through. And so there's lots of things that have happened within the evolution of humanity. So, for instance, there are 5 energy types, although the purists will say there are 4 energy types within in the human design. So you have the what is known as the non-sacral beings, which is the manifester, the projector, and the reflector. And then you have the sacral beings, which are the generator and the manifesting generator. The manifesting generator is a hybrid of the manifester and the generator, but they still act and respond like a generator. So that's where the argument is, well, actually, they're still a generator. But we do operate slightly different to the pure generators. They are here for mastery. Do you know what I mean? Whereas we're here to make those quantum leaps. We are the express builders. Do you know what I mean? We can multitask and hold many things. We have a lot of energy. We're very powerful compared to, out of all the energy types, we are the most, and when I say powerful, it's not a better thing. It's to do with our role and what we're here to bring.
Yes.
And there are consequences to being powerful, because we can misuse that. It can be against us, because basically, as a manifesting generator, we have so much energy, and if we are not using it correctly, then it's just ricocheting around the body, and you're prone to burnout. You're prone to illness, and there's lots of different things if you're not operating.
Yeah, it comes down, isn't it? That ripples through our life.
So what I was going to say, jumping back in 1781, and this is where the difference of the Hindu chakra system of the original 7 of what people know of within in the body, the 7 within human design in the year 1781, with the discovery of the planet Uranus. The consciousness of humanity elevated and shifted, and that's when the projector energy type came in. And the projector energy type are the guides, and they are the new leaders of the future. Do you know what I mean? Because they are here to guide the rest of us of how to use our energy more efficiently. Nice. But the caveat of that is that these projector energy types, their wisdom is not for everybody, and they cannot, although they will have understandings of energy systems and stuff and how people work, it's not for them to go and tell people. They have to be recognized and invited to share that wisdom to their tribe, to their fractal. So anytime that they are pushing and trying to project in their wisdom, it's going to be immediately rejected. They're going to, be seen as the interfering one, the bossy one, the whatever, Mm-hmm. So when they come in alignment to who they truly are, they're so going to prosper, because they are here to be successful. Their emotional signature is success, And although that they might feel at a disadvantage because they don't have the sustainable energy as us generator types have, it's not something to be envious of or any of that, because their role is different. Yeah. And they can be when they know who they are and how they work, they can be just as impactful, successful, and all of that, because there's almost mythology within the human design. Oh, I'm a projector, so I don't have the energy, I can't do. And yet we see people who are very successful as
yeah, definitely
projectors and stuff like that, and they even seem to have loads of energy and able to do things because they're using their energy wisely,
Yeah.
I think they right. Go. Sorry.
would you think that projectors, because I feel projectors, listening to what you've said now, and my experience of being activated by a projector, would you say that that is part of their being, is an activator? It's to switch on
It's
some.
not an activation. It's their aura is penetrating into our auras.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Their aura is penetrating. It's
Initial.
very focused, so they can just get in and.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas as a generator, um our aura is very enveloping. It's very magnetic, you know, and so we feel like more. We feel like safe. We feel there's something about us that is alluring, you know. And then the manifestor's energy is actually repelling because they're here to impact. They're here to, you know, initiate and make the way forward, you know. So it's a very different energy, you know. And so this is why part of their strategy is that they need to inform, so people can just get the fuck out of the way, so they can just do it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and then you have the reflector, which is a totally different animal.
It's very rare,
You know,
isn't it?
totally, they're very rare. They are 1% of the population, but I've actually met a few now over the years of reading charts and stuff.
Yeah.
And they are the barometer of the world. You know, they are this massive karmic mirror that if a reflector in your community is not doing so well, then you need to look at the environment and what's going on and all the rest of it, you
Can
know.
you give us some examples of maybe people in the spotlight, so to speak? People that names, drop some names, darling, of project
Names.
and of
Projectors.
yeah, not project,
Um,
of the
I was going to say, I could say reflect. I can give reflectors
yeah.
things. So I was going to say, teal swan is a reflector. Okay, so what you see in her is your trigger point. Okay, so what you don't like about her is normally a trigger in you. You know, so she is reflecting back to us of the dynamics of what's going on. You know,
Mm.
in terms of the film world, because that's what I have been part of, or what have you. I can see her, but I can't bring a name to my thing. Um, oh, that's so annoying. The
Which
one who is in oh, this is I was just going to say she's in the film when she's the lawyer it with Hugh Grant. Um, seven weeks is it called or whatever?
I
I
don't
can't
know.
think. And she's also, you know, Keanu Reeves. She was worked alongside in I can't remember the bomb thing, you know.
Okay.
Um,
Oh no, I'm gonna have to look that up now.
yeah. Oh, I'm just trying to think what her name is. And Congeniality was the other. She's a star of that.
Okay.
Miss
Yeah, I'll get that.
Congeniality.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's a reflector. Um, in terms of projectors, trying to think of famous projectors.
They've got to be like the divas of industry, I guess, haven't they? That, they're really super successful, um,
Trying to think. Um,
path paver.
well, within our small little community, Des is a projector.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, um, um, I'm just trying to think.
It's lovely for people to sort of like
'Cause I
go, oh,
don't.
yeah, I can see that in her now, that it's really helpful
Yeah,
to
yeah. So, so for instance, you know, someone's chart who I've studied a lot, because obviously, as an artist and stuff, is Frida Kahlo, you know, and Frida Kahlo was a manifester, and she was also had the incarnation cross of individuation or what have you, individuality, and she had predominantly individual circuitry. So she was here to mutate and really pioneer something very different, which is what she did, you know. And I love her. One of her quotes was, which is, you know, I am my own muse. Do you know what I mean? And it's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just trying to think of anyone else. Um,
I think it's quite nice.
no, I can't. Off the top
People,
of my head, I can't.
yeah, maybe people that are watching and listening in might now go and go, oh, I'm going to go and look and see if I can recognize these, these human design elements in
The energy type.
their own,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's really nice. It's one of my favorite things is going, oh, and looking at stuff and expanding my ability to see clearly, you know what I mean? And then because I'm with being a Manny Jenny, and in the wealth dynamics, I'm a star genius with blaze. So I'm a way shower and a networker and a shiner of the light on other people, for example. And it's lovely knowing how you can really be part of the change you want to see in the world, isn't it? Um, but there's something that's come to mind, Sharon, that I'd like to ask you that maybe would help people that are watching. If somebody is really standing at the edge of their transformation, but they're feeling resistance or fear, Sharon, what would you give them as advice as taking the first step to embracing their own infinite potential? And I know this is a massive question, but we are at
Mm.
this precipice of massive change. So, and a lot of people are expressing a lot of worry and fear at the moment as they're stepping forward on this path. Where can we help them to start them off?
I mean, the most important thing is being, being connected to yourself and, to your whatever you choose to call it, to your source. And to do that, you have to be still. You have to get to a still point. And if, preferably if you could go and be still in nature. Now, for each of us, it's going to be different, like some of us are more connected to water. Do you know what I mean? And so, being by a lake, a river, the sea, can really help us connect in with our um, natural rhythms, flows, and that sort of stuff. Because we are just, as a society, because of the pace, we are disconnected from ourselves and we are disconnected from nature. So that I think, you know, that is the first
Yeah. Yeah, I
step.
would definitely, yeah. And I feel
You
that
know,
when you know your foundations, which we've been talking about at length today, that can really help you align with the environment that is going to nourish you. Like you
mm,
just said, some of us are more connected to water to find our flow
no,
and make a path through because water doesn't give a fuck. She will just go.
yeah,
We look at what's happened when man's tried to divert the waters. It does not end well. You know, Water cannot be restrained and constricted. And that I see playing out in human as well. When you feel restricted, something's going to burst. That dam is going to burst eventually. Myself being a money generator 3-5, I need this environment, the hills, the valleys, the trees. That is my home. Some people are more, they need a cave, a den, to be able to nourish their own light manifest. So yeah, it is really important to find what feeds the every element of you, your soul, feed your soul and feeds your humanity.
mm,
But yeah, I definitely feel this is is often the least honored part of our existence, is that connection to nature. And it is something that I am still working my way as to being able to communicate that this is where we begin to remember who we are and come into that present.
And you know, whatever, there are different things, but you know, the soul being a light body and stuff like that, then our main connection is to the sun. And we need the light of the sun, you know, and we need to be observing the sunrises and the sunsets, because that is such a big part of our circadian rhythms. And the now that we are in, you know, these blue lights on our screens and these LEDs are so damaging to our system at the cellular level. You know, they're endocrine disruptors, they are causing, you know, obesity. There is so much damage that these blue lights are doing. So that is another thing that people can start to do, is wear blue blocking glasses at night. You know, some people go to the extreme. You can do this, is that replace every bulb in your house with red bulbs.
Yeah.
You know, so when it goes down, that you will go naturally being in the process of when the melatonin switches over.
Yeah.
So that is a massive part of, you know, quantum biology and the
Yeah.
quantum circadian rhythms and stuff. And there's lots of, like, oh, I don't know, there's so much I could go into, you know, in terms of the light in the body, because you know, the transit we're in now, okay, gene key 11 is the it is the gate and gene key, which is part of the codon ring of light. And this is the whole thing about controlling the amount of light that goes into our DNA. But there are actually, so when we are in fear, we are limiting the amount of light that can access our DNA and activate it and align and all the rest of it to our full potential. But there are physical things like seed oils, which actually block the light in the body at the cellular level. And this is all orchestrated within the industrial food complex to stop us from connecting to who we truly are.
Yeah.
You know?
And I feel we're going to have to do a part 2, aren't we? Oh gosh. And I just would love, I wish I could beam sunlight into the UK, you know, because you can see I'm bathed in sunlight at the moment. And I'm going to go out for a walk when we finish before you know, I've got another guest coming on the show this afternoon, so that's brilliant. And I feel that we're going to do another one in the new year maybe, and see how we have stepped up more in a few months' time, a few weeks' time. And because this subject is just endless, like you've just touched on another whole new realm that we
And there's a, you know, I've got, providing this obviously is weather, because we don't know what's going to happen this winter, but I am I'm going to a sound healing, special sound healing workshop in January. I've commissioned a bowl to be made for me, and this amazing guy, he is a wizard in his own right, and he did a meditation one day, and he had this vision of this instrument for healing. And basically, it's a carved bowl from wood, and it's strung like a harp. And it's an amazing instrument, okay? And I've wanted one of these for years. And I commissioned him in June to make it. But the bowl, the tree it was made from, the bowl actually broke during making. So he tried to mend it, but then as he was stringing it, it started to have another stress fault. So we've had to start again with a new bowl. So I don't know whether the new bowl will be finished when I go to the workshop or not. But I've had some incredible experiences with these bowls when I've been to other sound healers who have got these bowls, and I've used them in workshops. The particular bowl I'm having made is a hermetic bowl. And when I did like a suppose a vision quest sort of thing with it. I was actually taken into the blood of the body and shown things biology wise, and so for me, this instrument is amazing. So I'm quite excited to when that actually. It's all about timing again, of that, and then of the other thing I was going to say in terms of light. Although I do find the language of it, and some people don't even call it that, they call it a lot of different things, is light language, or it can be called soul language, or light codes. There's lots of different things. So that's another part of what I do. Do you know what I mean? So my actual voice is an activation in itself in terms of the
Yeah.
frequencies and codes I bring through. So there's lots of things in the mix. So I don't yeah, January's going to be interesting.
So
And
what would you, I'm going to drop all your information of how people can contact you
yeah.
in the description below this podcast. But have you got anything in particular that you are offering right now that people can connect with you and receive some activations?
I do one-to-one personalized readings, and I can do the sound healing sound healing light activation, whatever you choose to call it. I can do that. As I'm building my website myself, I'm still in the process. So at the moment, I only have a landing page collecting the emails, but you can email me either via the website or on social media via Instagram. So I'm available for readings, one-to-one coaching. I am building a waiting list for a membership container where I will be doing more of the teaching of all the different areas I cover.
Amazing. That is absolutely huge, isn't it? And it's just beautiful that people can come in wherever they're at and receive exactly what is right for them right now in any one moment, and being open to the fact that that's going to change as they're going through their own process. So thank you so much for that. And it's been an incredible time sharing with you. I loved every minute of it, and it's given me a lot more nourishment, shall we say, that more people actually realize the heart is our center of reconnection, and realizing that as soon as we start activating the heart, nothing ever change, nothing will ever go back. And knowing that in love there is so much freedom, we've just got to trust. I feel that it still comes back to trust for a lot of us. It's trusting the heart will open. And when we open the heart, we can trust. And it's one of those things. It's like a cyclical thing. We've
Yeah.
got one to be able to do the other. And it goes round and round and round, or round and round and round. With the heart brain coherence, which I really love. Anybody that wants to learn more about anything we've talked about today, I will put links to like Heart Math Institute and everything down. Are you one of the facilitators for Heart Math, did you say?
yeah. So I'm a licensed coach. Yeah.
Right.
And on my link tree via my Instagram, there's actually a free and the door is knocking. Can I
Yeah.
answer the door? I'm gonna.
1 second, everyone. This is the reality that we're walking through. We have stuff that happens, and this has been such a great podcast, everyone, and I'm so grateful for you all listening as we are birthing this new timeline together. All of us, everyone that's listening, you are all part of this massive shift in humanity's consciousness. And welcome,
I
Sharon.
was hoping it wouldn't, but it did, I'm afraid. So
Always
right
perfect.
at the end. Right at the end.
Yay. Yes,
So,
it's free.
yeah, what I was going to say is that I have a free, well, it's not mine. The link is on my page to a free heart math experience. So it actually talks you through the very basics of it, and it will give you a feel of um, what it's all about.
Yay.
And there's also a link on my link tree to get a free um, human design
Yay.
um, uh, thing. It's from the main platform, one of the main platforms that does all the charts and stuff. So you will have the basic chart, but what you will need is your date of birth, the location, and an accurate time. That is the only thing. If you were having a reading with me and you didn't know the time, I could actually run multiple charts and then we can ask questions and we could also dowse on it to find it. That's other ways.
Yeah, because a lot of people
You
don't know the exact time, do they? Mine was exactly 5:25 a.m. because my mum never let me forget that.
Oh yeah, I had that as well. Yeah, yeah,
There's impact right there.
exactly. Yeah.
Amazing, Sharon. Thank you so, so much. Look out for the next episode with Sharon and myself in the coming month or so. Whenever a time aligns will be perfect. So thanks today, and I wish everyone here an amazing day or evening wherever you are, whatever you're choosing to be. So thanks, and this is a tutalo. Until next time.